this investigation were stolen from Hamilton. The remainder were taken from across the greater Hamilton-Toronto area. Although this criminal network was active in Hamilton, the group operated also, as mentioned, outside of our city's boundaries. Hamilton Police Service continues to work with other policing partners to provide a response in order to tackle the rise in auto theft. By working together, we can make a difference for our community. This investigation was conducted in collaboration with the Canadian Border Services Agency, as well as the Criminal Intelligence Service of Ontario and the Equite Association. At this time, I would like to bring up Hamilton Deputy Chief of Police, Ryan Diodati, to provide an overview.
Thanks, Marty. Good morning. Often we think of auto theft as a victimless crime, but in fact, it has far-reaching consequences affecting both communities and individuals. Auto theft not only causes significant financial loss to individuals and businesses, but it also fuels other criminal activities, such as organized crime and property damage. These stolen vehicles are shipped, reeve in, and sold to either complicit or unsuspecting buyers. In addition, stolen vehicles are often used to facilitate dangerous and violent crimes, putting innocent lives at risk. Most recently, we have seen this during smash and grab robberies at jewelry stores across Ontario. I want to commend the work of investigators and our partners in disrupting a prolific auto theft ring. In 2024, Hamilton Police received monies from the Ministry of the Solicitor General to address auto thefts. An additional grant from the ministry led to the successful completion of this lengthy investigation, which was made possible through funding provided by the Ontario government. HPS will continue to prioritize auto theft prevention and enforcement to ensure that our streets are secure and that residents feel safe in their neighborhoods. I would now like to invite Inspector Ben Thibodeau to provide more detailed information on Project Polar Bear.
Thank you, Deputy. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Led by the Hamilton Police Service, Project Polar Bear was formed to address a rise in stolen autos in Hamilton. This organized crime group targeted high-end vehicles, distributing stolen cars both nationally and internationally. At night, crews would steal autos and load them into shipping containers. Most were shipped to Montreal and destined to be exported to Ghana, Iraq, and the United Arab Emirates. Nationally, the vehicles were revinned and circulated back into the domestic market. The investigation is ongoing regarding the buyer's culpability in acquiring those vehicles. Over the course of the investigation, police were able to recover approximately 88% of all stolen vehicles identified and return them to their owners. Ultimately, 232 vehicles were identified, 205 of which were recovered, valued at approximately $15 million. Between February 14th and 18th, 2025, Hamilton Police seized 14 vehicles and executed warrants on 9 local businesses and residences. In addition to the stolen auto recovered, investigators seized half a kilogram of cocaine, several kilograms of psilocybin, $35,000 in proceeds of crimes, 2 loaded handguns, and several devices designed to reprogram key fobs, amplify key fob signals, alter VIN numbers, and interfere with GPS signals. Hamilton Police have arrested and charged 8 individuals. Those names and charges are displayed behind me. Project Polar Bear investigators are collaborating closely with the Provincial Asset Forfeiture Unit with regards to all properties seized and investigated during this project. We're also working with the Major Auto Theft Prosecution Response Team from the Ministry of Attorney General. The investigation is ongoing and further charges may be pending. If you have any information that you believe could assist the Hamilton Police with this investigation, we're asking that you contact Detective Emerson Eastlip of the Hamilton Police Service Bear Unit. I would now like to welcome Equité Association Vice President Brian Gast to come up and say a few words.
Good morning, and thank you for the introduction. I'm Brian Gass, Vice President of Investigative Services at Equité Association, a national not-for-profit organization dedicated to combating insurance crime. I want to express my appreciation to Deputy Chief Diodati, Superintendent Schoenberg, Inspector Thibault, and the Hamilton Police Service for their impressive work addressing vehicle crimes and taking down this prolific auto theft organized crime group. Their efforts and initiatives like Project Polar Bear are having a significant impact to the communities in which we live in. Equité plays a crucial role in tackling insurance crimes in Canada, particularly auto theft and fraud, by offering investigative services and advanced analytics in collaboration with agencies like CBSA, law enforcement, and OMVIC. Auto theft is a major concern in Canada, especially in Ontario, where claims exceeded $1 billion in 2023. Where there was a 17% decrease in auto theft last year, numbers are still very high. And it still remains a serious public safety issue. Auto theft is a financially motivated crime, and criminal organizations are utilizing the vehicle as a commodity, as a funding mechanism to finance and carry out other criminal activities, ranging from drugs to firearms to international terrorism. Criminal organizations are exploiting Ontario's large population, high volume of targeted vehicles, and its proximity to the eastern ports, which makes it especially vulnerable to auto theft. We commend the commitment of the Ontario government and law enforcement who are working hard to combat vehicle crimes, and CBSA's ability to work in collaboration and have been doing an impressive work. Ontario's auto theft problem cannot be remedied in isolation. It requires this kind of dedication and a collaborative approach through public-private partnerships to ultimately combat this crime and protect the people of Ontario. Together, I believe we can overcome this crisis. I'd like to turn it back over to Superintendent Schoenberg, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. This investigation could not happen without the support of our partners, and so we extend our sincere thanks to the Canadian Border Services Agency, the Criminal Intelligence Service of Ontario, and Equité Association. We'd also like to thank the Halton Regional Police Service, the Niagara Regional Police Service, the Ontario Provincial Police, and the Waterloo Regional Police Service for their assistance yesterday executing the warrants in the 4 municipalities mentioned earlier. Strong partnerships are essential to law enforcement projects, fostering collaboration, resource sharing, and community trust to create lasting solutions to crime and public safety challenges. Thank you for being here today, and we'll now take any questions. I'll invite Inspector Thibault to come up to assist with any questions as they may be appropriate. Yep, come on up.
Can someone talk about the planning, coordination, and it seems like sophistication of something like this?
Sure. I'll ask Inspector Thibault. This is a one-year-long project, and I'll ask the inspector to fill in some of the blanks on that.
I'm guessing the question is about the criminal enterprise of moving these vehicles. I think it's fair to separate the vehicle theft into 3 large categories. One is destination to export overseas. The second one being the reventing, the local market reventing. And the third one, the vehicles that are stolen essentially to commit parallel criminal offenses like robberies and smash and grab, what we've heard before. This group that we investigated principally worked on exporting vehicles and re-VINing vehicles for the local market. So essentially stealing vehicles, changing the VIN number, re-registering them and reselling them on the domestic market. And much simpler, the export is just stealing vehicle, putting them into shipping containers and ship them overseas by maritimes, seaways.
So these men, you initially said 8. Is there one missing from the board, or is there 7?
There are 8 people that were arrested. At the time of the takedown, we had grounds to arrest 7 people. One more person was arrested as a result of the evidence that we found at the execution of the search warrant. For that person, the information has not been sworn to, so we cannot provide details about the identity of that person at this point.
And what were these businesses that you guys had search warrants for? Like, what were the names of these businesses, and what kind of businesses were they?
The one business is named Apex Recycling in Niagara Falls. It purport to work on as a scrapyard or as a recycler. We allege that they were facilitating the export of stolen autos and the re-VINing of stolen autos. The other 2 businesses are not labeled as business. They're commercial pieces of land where mechanic work was being done. So I can't give you the name of a business. And the other 6 locations were private residences.
So police believe these men were re-VINing, selling them locally, as well as exporting them to Africa and other places as well?
Yeah, a large proportion of their business was to export like complete vehicles. Some were cut, some were apparently more for parts, but a large proportion of their business was to export.
When you say that the cars were eventually shipped, were they driven to a port in St. Montreal, or were they shipped out of Hamilton?
I'm not going to get too deep into the manner by which we investigated these individuals. I think it could impede with future investigations, but I can tell you that in some cases they were hauled to a triage station and then shipped by train to the Port of Montreal. In some cases, the vehicle were driven as stolen overnight straight to the Port of Montreal.
So you were working with Canada Border Services. Were they intercepting these shipping containers?
Again, like without getting into too deep into details, we're able to disrupt their trade at many different levels during the process. At times, we seized the vehicle prior to being shipped or packaged into a shipping container. At times, we seize them at the triage location in the GTA, triage location in Mississauga and Vaughan. And at times, we were able to recover the vehicles at the Port of Montreal, ready to be put on a ship, literally to be sent to the Middle East or Africa.
And you said that was the total of stolen vehicles in the 200s, or what was the number?
Yeah, the total number of vehicles that we've identified as stolen by that cell was 232, and we actually recovered 205, which is quite the exploit, if you ask me.
You recovered them in pieces, or were you able to deliver them back to the folks who had them stolen?
So again, a little bit of everything. At times, we were able to seize the vehicles early enough in the process that we returned the vehicle to a particular, like a private citizen. In many cases, we're able to recover full vehicles that were by now owned by the insurance company, so they were returned to the insurance company. And at times, they were in parts. So they had been cut and apparently being sold for parts or electronic parts in the vehicle.
Can someone talk about how the average person can protect themselves from getting their vehicle stolen, or if there's anything that somebody can do to help prevent that?
Yeah, I'll make one comment on this, and I'll pass it to Mr. Gast. I think he'd be in a better position to speak to that, but I can tell you, as part of the grant that we received from the government, we purchased a whole boxes of Faraday bags. They're small bags that insulate the key fob from emitting signals. I mentioned earlier, we seized throughout the project a number of devices that amplify the signal, so the thief can, from outside of the residence, expand the signal to the vehicle and steal the vehicle. So we distributed to the Hamilton community a number of Faraday bags so they can insulate their own keys and protect themselves from these thieves. But now I'll turn it over to Mr. Gast, that he might have more comments on this.
Yeah, we like to call it a layered approach. You don't have to do it all, but if you can do some of them, it just adds time for the criminal or items that they have to defeat. Ultimately, having the vehicles harder to steal in the first place would be ideal, working with the manufacturers on that. But in the meantime, there are things that you can do. Park in a garage if you have the ability to do so. Park in a well-lit area. Use an aftermarket immobilizer. Use a steering wheel lock. Use a Faraday pouch to protect against relay attacks. Use an onboard diagnostic port lock, which prevents against reprogramming. Being aware. Again, none of these are the silver bullet, but it just adds time. If you add some of these deterrents, it adds some protections to yourself. When buying the used or a potentially stolen REVIN vehicle, we always recommend know who the seller is. Know where that person is. If there's red flags, always report the suspicious activity. If it's coming out of province, right now there's other provinces that are registering the vehicles a little bit easier than in Ontario. If it's an out-of-province transaction, be aware. If it's cash, if you don't know who the seller is, if they're asking you to meet in an odd location like a public parking lot, there's many things that you can do to protect yourself. And if it's too good to be true, the chances are it is too good to be true. So those are some very basic things. But again, you don't have to do them all. But if you can do 2 or 3 of them, it just protects your vehicle, and as well as tracking devices as well.
And we were at the Apex Center this morning, or in the Niagara Region?
Yeah, we executed the search warrant on Apex yesterday. We expect to be at that location for a number of days. As you can expect, I think you've seen some images. The Apex property is extremely large. It's not easy to search through. We're looking for small VIN numbers and markers on parts of cars. So it's not simple to do. So we expect a large police deployment for several days at Apex.
And we saw the aerial shot. There's a lot of cars there. That's not to say that they're all stolen or property of crime.
No, we're certainly not alleging that every single vehicles are stolen on the Apex property. We do believe that a proportion of their business was recycling. Some of the vehicles were disabled in the first place. They were no longer able to operate on the roads. But there is a proportion of parts and vehicles that transited through Apex and that are still on the Apex property that have stolen parts on them or that are stolen vehicles.
Did any of these men own that business?
Again, I don't want to get into the case too much before we get to the court process, but we do allege that we have one of the person that was owner-operator of Apex, yes.
How many cars did you track going overseas? Because that recovery rate is very high, right? 205 out of 230 or 232 at Haldimand was,
Yep.
And it takes a lot to just recover one car here locally, and the fact that these were going overseas, there's some that you missed in that total tally, or?
Yeah, I don't have the total tally in front of me, and maybe I can follow up with you in terms of proportion, which proportion from that group was expected to go overseas versus what was expected for the local market. The small proportion that was not recovered, we're still working on attempting to recover them. We're hopeful to be able to recover them as well. And now it's not to say that we could recover every single car that this group operated. That's the total number that we've identified, that we're able to identify.
And these were identified in the past, recovered in the past month or so, or was this also part of?
Over the course of 1 year. Over the course of 1 year, steadily we recovered vehicles.
And you were able to recover the vehicles, but you just made the arrest recently, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so you were able to track these vehicles, recover them, and then now recently you made the arrest?
Yeah, and again, there's multiple layers to these groups. There's people that are essentially assigned to steal the vehicle physically. Some are assigned to manage the inventory. Some are assigned to only export or take control of that part of the business. So in order to obviously make the case, we have to accumulate evidence throughout the course of the project.
I see that there's obviously some hotspot areas on the map. Was there a particular spot in Hamilton that was really targeted?
those, and I don't want to advance too much into statistics and numbers. I know that several vehicles were stolen in the mountain area of the city. You have to keep in mind too, every time that we worked in collaboration with CBSA and opened these shipping containers, it wasn't uncommon to find one steal from Hamilton and one steal from elsewhere in the GTA. So the same group was operating fluidly throughout the GTA without borders. Like they don't discriminate really. They'll steal one in Hoqueville and one in Hamilton the next day and one in Peel Region the next day. So.
Again, it seems like it's a very layered operation with a lot of stop points. There's 7 guys listed on board there, 8 arrested. Is it possible that there were more people involved?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like any enterprise, I think there's many layers of employees. We're not suggesting that we've arrested every single person that was part of this cell. But like I said before, we continue to investigate. We've seized a lot of electronic devices and things like that. We will go through them. We will do examinations, and it's possible that additional charges and arrests are pending.
Okay, if there's no other questions, again, I just want to thank the investigators and all the agencies that assisted us. You heard the number of 88% recovery. I think that's a great news story for Hamilton. But we can certainly share with you that the concerns in terms of auto theft have been front of mind for us for quite some time over the past year. We've heard it loud and clear from community, but we were working in the background, sometimes covertly, to be able to intercept and recover these vehicles. And so we think this is a good news piece, and we also are very confident that this disruption will make a difference in terms of auto theft in this community. We're not blind to the fact that there are other cells operating throughout the province, but we're confident that this particular investigation is going to make a disruption, and we'll be working closely with the Crown attorneys and the bail courts to make sure that those who have been arrested as alleged are held accountable. Thank you for being here today.